Welcome to Daily Dose of Hebrew Weekend Editions. Today we are in 1 Samuel 3:17, and we're going to look at the translation and parsing for today. And then we'll return next week to look at the accent patterns particularly. Let's read the Hebrew together today as we begin. Vayomer ma hadavar asher diber elecha al na techached mimeni. Ko ya'aseh lecha Elohim, veko Yosif im techached mimeni davar. Mikol hadavar asher diber elecha. So that does it for our reading. Let's look at the translation. We get here, and he said, "What is the word, or what is the matter, what is the thing which he spoke to you? Do not now hide from me," and we might could supply it as a direct object. Do not now hide it from me. Thus may God do to you, and thus may he add. This is kind of this is the curse formula of an oath statement. Thus may the Lord do to you, and thus may he add, if you hide from me a word, or a piece, a thing, from all the word, or all the thing, which he spoke to you. Now the verse opens with the call imperfect 3ms of Amar, plus a Vav consecutive that continues the narrative here. The 3ms subject here is Eli by context, but it's not explicit in this verse itself, so we just get, and then he said. Notice the revia here that sets off the opening verbal from the direct speech itself. And we next get the direct speech opening with the interrogative what. And we have to supply the to be verb here, and we get what is, or what was may work a little bit better in the past tense. Since the vision has already been given. What was the thing which he spoke to you? Diber is a PL perfect 3ms of the root davar, meaning to speak, and the L preposition indicates to whom the speech was directed. So we get Eli's question to Samuel, what was the thing which he spoke to you? Now Eli continues after this initial question to request that Samuel not hide this vision from him. The construction here is the negation all plus the jussive, indicating a request. Techached here is a PL imperfect 2ms in form, but a jussive in meaning. The root here is chachad, kaf chet dalit, meaning to hide. The jussive serves as a second-person volative, expressing Eli's volition or his will or desire for Samuel to tell him the vision. So we get the force of a command, do not hide from me. We should probably understand a null object here in this clause, do not hide it from me, it referring to the vision generally. But we don't have that in the verse explicitly either. Eli moves next in his oath formula, and we compare this to the one that we heard from the Lord a few weeks ago in verse 14. Eli's oath here is a bit more standard. He says, thus may God do to you, and thus may he add. This is the introductory formula. Ya'aseh here is a call imperfect 3ms, and we get the may God do idea by understanding it as a jussive, giving the nuance of a subjunctive, may God do. Elohim here is the subject, and next we get Yosif. This is the hifil imperfect 3ms of the root yasaf, yod samic pei, meaning to add. This also is translated as a jussive. May God do to you, and may he add. There's Yosif. So this usually gets put into English, though, as may God do so to you, and more also, is kind of the euphemism here. Now, in the introductory statement of the oath formula, the actual consequences are often left out. What is it that God should do to Samuel, and what is the more that he may add? Well, the consequences are so dire in these statements that they are often omitted explicitly and left out. Now, beginning with im, we get the condition for the curse. If you hide from me a word. Techached here again is a PL imperfect 2ms of the root kachad, meaning to hide. Now remember that the imperfect 2ms and the imperfect 3fs are actually identical in our verbal paradigm, but like I tell my students, the contextual difference between a second-person male and a third-person female will be incredibly clear, so you don't get these mixed up. Though this one is obviously a 2ms imperfect of kachad because Eli is talking to Samuel directly, namely a second-person address, and Samuel is a male, so the context is going to be clear. Now we stopped somewhat in the middle of a thought here. Let's go back. After the zakef katon, we pick up the min preposition indicating the total body of things that God spoke to Samuel as Eli tells Samuel that he wants to hear it all. So back up just a bit here. May God do so to you, and thus may he add, if you hide from me a word from all the thing or all the vision which he spoke to you. Now again, the last prepositional phrase and its relative clause indicates that Eli wants to hear every single word that God spoke to Samuel. Perhaps this is the point where Samuel gets a lump in his throat thinking about how to communicate to Eli the destruction that the Lord pronounced on his house. Ironically, Eli curses Samuel if he will not tell him everything that God spoke, but indeed what Samuel is about to tell him is the curse that the Lord has placed on Eli's house from verse 14. So notice that the min preposition here has assimilated the noon as the dagesh forte. Also notice that davar is singular here, so it is best to translate a word from all of the thing, or if you hide a word from everything which he spoke to you. In the relative clause, the verbal element is diber, and it's a PL perfect 3ms of the root davar. The PL is the base stem for davar, so we don't need to read any emphasis or intensive nuance into the PL here. So a final translation for the day to put all this together is this. And Eli said, and he said, this Eli is the subject, what is the thing which he spoke to you? Do not hide it from me. If we supply the it again, do not hide it from me. Thus may God do to you, and thus may he add, if you hide from me a word from everything or from all the thing which he spoke to you. So that will do it for today, and until next time, shalom.